Reflektive and also some of the work that they've been doing with Pinterest is a bit of a case study. So I'll turn it over to Rajeev.
Thanks so much for the kind intro, Robbie. It's nice to be out here. I'm Rajeev, Behera. I founded Reflektive about 2.5 years ago. We're in San Francisco. Me and my team, hands up, everybody, right? Sweet. The 3 teammates, we all flew in today from San Francisco. They're all troopers because they woke up at 5 a.m. So thank you so much. But yeah, no, happy to be here and talk to you guys. I started this company 2.5 years ago because I wanted to build a platform to help my middle managers manage better. I used to work at Disney. We had an 80-person mobile development gaming group. We used to build games for Disney. And I ran into the problem where my managers would task manage really well, but they wouldn't spend any time people managing. So none of them knew what their employees wanted to do in their careers. None of them knew what skills they wanted to build. And so we wanted to figure out a way to facilitate that. And then when I was looking at processes that are in place, what we had at Disney was we had SAP and we had this performance review. And that's how we did feedback. And it just didn't seem like the most natural way to do feedback. So today we're going to talk about how we're working with a few companies and what best practices we've learned in terms of moving away from annual review processes to more lightweight, ongoing feedback. Some best practices around that, and then we've done a lot of work with Pinterest, and they've done some really cool stuff. So we're going to deep dive into kind of their evolution and how they evolved their process. This might be preaching to the choir, but the biggest issue that we had with reviews is that by the time you get to review season and you get feedback, you're so defensive because it's tied to your comp. So it's hard to really learn anything. And it doesn't really create a good environment for giving feedback. So it didn't seem like it was actually the best way to do feedback. It was a system for feedback, and it's kind of the only system that happens everywhere for feedback, but it just wasn't that effective. So we're trying to figure out how do we make it more ongoing. And when I thought about it personally, we're thinking, well, how do we just put in a very lightweight infrastructure so managers can do this themselves? Because it's something that has to scale through your managers. As Tanya was saying, it's so important, and they're the extension of your culture. They propagate your culture. They'll propagate, get engagement. It's all up to them. And if you have managers who care about their employees and spend a little bit of time with them, it'll make a big difference. But it is a tough problem to crack, right? So these are 2 Harvard Business School articles that came up. One was employees want more negative feedback, although managers hate giving it because it's scary to give negative feedback for everybody. And it's just uncomfortable for them to talk about it. And there's a stat, 72% of employees want more negative feedback, but their managers don't want to give it to them. It's kind of this interesting place where how do we make them comfortable to give feedback? And I think some of the great stuff Tanya's doing is going to help with that. That's one of the biggest barriers, how to get people comfortable. So you can progress through So we work with a few companies, and in terms of best practice, what we're seeing is people usually start out with a biannual review process. That's kind of the standard, right? How many people here who have a review process that happens twice a year? It's a good percentage of the room. And when we talk to a lot of our customers, this is kind of the steady state. Everyone does kind of reviews once a year, some people do it twice a year, and that's the steady state. So what we try to do is augment that process with real-time feedback. And we wanted to give a very easy tool for managers to give feedback to their employees and make sure that happens throughout the year. Because if that's happening, you're enabling them, you're making it easier for them to give feedback. Their employees are getting the feedback immediately, and then the reviews, they still happen, it's good for them to happen, but they're more of a retrospective of what's happened throughout the year. And I think it should be a surprise. We sent out a survey to one company, and we asked about how the review process went, and one person it was pretty funny, he said, it felt like a drive-by shooting. There's surprises that I should have known about beforehand. And it should never feel like that. It's a pretty funny way to say it, but it's true. That's how people feel. It's an exaggerated way of saying it. But and so we work with companies. So a lot of people are now doing this as the first stage, right? When you have reviews, you can't just rip them out and just move to this whole new system of ongoing real-time feedback. It's usually a transition process. And a lot of companies are in this transitionary state, like Instacart, Uber, Comcast, completely different types of companies, right? You have a smaller startup like Instacart, huge startup like Uber, gigantic company like Comcast. They're all kind of doing the same type of thing. And it's working really well because the real-time feedback just augments the review process. Then if you, that's kind of what we're seeing as kind of the next step. And I'll show you what real-time feedback looks like. I think the key with it is being very practical about how people will give feedback. If you think about your managers or your employees, they're really busy, right? They have probably 4 hours of meetings each day. They come back to their computer. They have their 50 emails they have to get to. It's really hard to get them to give each other feedback. So what you have to do is build these processes into current processes and workflows instead of creating new processes and workflows. When you do that, it becomes a lot harder for people to actually implement them and for people to participate. And Pinterest did a great job with that, so we'll dive into how they did that. Actually, can you say that? Cool. So what they did before, they had twice-a-year reviews, like most other companies. January and July, they did reviews. They did peer feedback, they did downward feedback, they did upward feedback. And then they did have goal setting, but it wasn't really centrally driven. You guys may have seen this where every group has their own way of doing goals. It's not decentralized. It's hard to manage who's few weeks. So that didn't really help very much. That was a big problem. Not enough feedback. People got feedback twice a year, and everyone who's working at a startup, most startups are in brand new markets, and that means your talent has to grow really fast and learn really fast to be able to grow with your market. And if your talent's not learning how to learn this new thing that they're building, then you're going to fall behind a competitor. So you need feedback a lot more. Another thing, recency effects, which you guys have probably seen before. When you do a review in January, how do you remember what happened 5 months ago? You don't, and then you usually just are inaccurate with how you remember and recall feedback. So these are kind of the issues that they saw that they wanted to fix. So this is their one-on-one process. So first, this is kind of how they morphed into a monthly goal check-in process that was super lightweight. And when we first started building this, we thought, okay, well, you're gonna do monthly check-ins. This is gonna be pretty tough to implement because you're adding a lot of process, right? Instead of every 6 months, now you're saying every month you're gonna do something. It sounds like a lot. It sounded pretty aggressive. But what worked really well is they started with company goals, and those got set in January. And then everybody put their own goals into the system. And then every month they did a small little goal check-in. And the goal check-in took 5 minutes. And we'll show you what it looks like in a second. It's great. It takes 5 minutes, and then it keeps everyone aligned on goals throughout the year. And every time you do a check-in, it gets easier and easier. So the first one takes a little bit longer. They take 10 minutes, we take 15. The next one takes 10, the next one takes 5. And then as managers have more and more of these conversations, it just becomes easier and easier. So it was company goals got set first, then individuals went in and they put their own goals in, and they set up these monthly check-ins. And if you click to the next one, and then then they added real-time feedback to augment the whole process. And then finally, we did another set of company-level goals at the mid-year points. So we're moving to this new system, which by itself makes it easier for people to buy into another system. And then it just got incorporated into a workflow that should already be happening, right? Like your managers should already be crystal clear on what their priorities are with their employees. But this just put a lightweight infrastructure in place to help with that process. Cool, so we can show you what the check-in actually looks like and how real-time feedback actually looks. So we talked a lot about how do we give feedback, and for good feedback to be done, it should be a diamond and not a heart. I learned that today. spade and not a club. And so how do you do that? And one thing that we decided was, from my own personal experience, giving constructive feedback is really tough, right? It's not a fun thing to do, but then after you do it, you have to follow it up with tons of spades, right? Constantly. Otherwise, it just kind of fades away and you have that tough discussion for no reason. So we built this mechanic to help with giving very specific feedback. And it's kind of going with the mentality of we want to be in your workflow so we don't disrupt what you're currently doing. And we want to build it into how you work. So this is actually where Reflektive starts. So this is my Gmail. And if I get an email from somebody, Reflektive starts on the right side. So you just give feedback directly from there. So you can give positive feedback here, or if you click on the blue button, you can save a note to yourself for spades. So what ends up happening is when things happen throughout the week, they'll forget. And by the time the next one-on-one comes around, you don't have those spades. They turn more into clubs, right? So the goal here is you take notes throughout the week, they're saved and they're stored, and then when you have your one-on-ones, your empowering managers have more specific conversations. And that shows up here. We have this whole interface where if you scroll down, you see all of the feedback that this person's gotten. There's a little lock on the ones that I wrote for this person, so I can remember basically what I want to bring up with that person. And it's not even shared with the person, it's shared just to me. It's almost like my own little Evernote file, so that I remember the specifics and I can bring that up with the person. So the goal really is make it super lightweight, part of the workflow. And so that real-time feedback is kind of just supporting ongoing development. But then the goal check-ins are pretty interesting as well. So at Pinterest, everybody has 3 goals. And the reason why they max it at 3 is because if you have too many, then these goal check-ins take too long, right? So you have 10 goals, you have to check in on 10 goals every month. That's too much. Also, you probably should not ever have 10 goals. It's too many goals to actually focus on and get correct. So they go for 3, they do OKRs, objectives and key results. You put them in here, simple goal management page. But then what's cool is when you go to the check-ins, every month they go through this check-in process. And it's super simple, it takes 5 minutes, and this is what their check-in looks like. If you click on Pam, so the first question is great. It's have your goals changed or should they change? And this one's cool because a lot of people feel uncomfortable when their goals have changed. And because they feel like they did something wrong and that's why their goals changed. What really happened is the business is changing really fast and your goals should be changing. So it's totally fine. So to build that into the culture, they ask this question. And then after that, it sucks in your goals from that goals page we showed you. And all you have to do is write, am I behind, on track, ahead, or complete? And so you have 3 goals. You're basically filling out 3 drop-downs. And it takes 5 minutes to do. If you scroll down to the bottom, there's some developmental stuff like what went well, provide some feedback that could help make this person progress towards their goals a little bit better. Just a little more qualitative feedback around how they did on their goals. So the goal really here is just to make it very simple. This happens during the one-on-one. The employee will write it first and then go into the one-on-one. The manager won't even write it before the one-on-one. They'll pull this up during the one-on-one. They'll talk about it, and then it's done. So it's basically adding some lightweight infrastructure into the current one-on-one process. Yeah, that's how they do it. It's been going really well. The way I know that it's going well when I compare what they're doing with our other customers, it's really hard to implement a goal system that people use and that has widespread adoption. So they have widespread adoption. Every month, a huge percentage of the company goes through the check-ins. And another really validating step was they were doing it monthly and they decided, oh, this might be too much, maybe we should do it every other month. And their employees said, no, we want it every month, which is great. That's a great sign. So yeah, that's kind of the deep dive into Pinterest. I don't think we have time for questions now. Awesome, cool. Well, thanks so much for the time. And if you want to talk more, I'll be by the water cooler also.